Traders, how are you? With Marcello. Today we're doing the recap of what happened in the markets last week. We have the government of the US investigating some side effects of the things in your arm. We have massive layoffs. And of course, we have all the elites at Davos talking about how they're going to save the planet, all arriving in private jets. Let's get started. Because the environment is in such a bad place that they're not going to give up their private jets. They're going to keep going in there. They can't fly commercial. No. But you and I got to eat crickets to save the environment. But they can fly on their private jets. That's how it works. It's a big club and you ain't in it. Markets overall this week. The biggest news was the layoffs. Obviously, we have a situation where Microsoft and Google announced that they're going to lay off quite a bit of people. I'll give you the exact numbers. If I think off the top of my head, Google was 12,000. I think Microsoft was 10,000. I'll give you the exact numbers in a moment. And we also have obviously the whole, situation in Davos with the elites I just mentioned, because we're trying to save the planet. Markets in the US, the Dow and the S&P 500 were negative, while the NASDAQ was positive. Canada was also positive. According to a company called Layoffs.fyi, which is a website that tracks the layoffs, 55,000 global tech sector employees have already lost their jobs in 2023. This is going to surpass 2022, since we already are getting to the point now where we're walking into recession, and the amount of employees that have already been reported to be started to get laid off are going to start. I completely lost my train of thought there. But the point is that in 2023, since we're already getting the layoffs at a such rapid pace, it's going to supersede 2022 very quickly. Overseas market news, the European markets are mixed, with Istanbul going up over 10%. Latin America is mostly mixed as well. Africa and the Middle East is also mixed, with Egypt going up over 3%, and then Asia and Australia mostly positive as well, with Indonesia going up over 3%. Bitcoin having the best start of the year ever. Cross a 23,000 mark. If you guys aren't into trading or you're not investors, you guys know, or if you don't know, anytime that the price gets above the 200 moving average, it's an indication of strength to go to the upside. It's literally crossing that now. And this has caused the most liquidations in the last year, since it started to go up quite a bit. I'm still on my Shiba. Where's my Shiba button? Hold on, wait for it. Still positive on Shiba, even though we've had this huge meltdown. Don't forget to leave your like. Haven't raised the cost of the like button, even though it's free. And if you guys have any questions, I'm gonna start doing these videos again. So leave the comments with a hashtag Ask Marcello, so I can go ahead and pull up the questions a lot easier. There's the thing right there. See? Oh, no, that's the like button. Hold on, let me hit you with there it is. So Bitcoin and other news. Bitcoin for the week went up over 9%. It closed the week at just under 21,000, even though it did hit 23,000. The crypto carnage continues, with Genesis now filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. If you guys don't know what Genesis is, it's a US-based crypto lending firm. Supposedly, there's a bunch of numbers. There's liabilities ranging between 1.2 to 11 billion. The most common number I saw was 3.5 billion. This is what I always told you guys. Just be careful. It's not that you can't make money in crypto. I don't think Bitcoin is the future. I think that blockchain is the future. After the governments, they launched their world communism, world government with government coin, the CBDCs, the central bank digital currencies, where they shut off your money because you buy too much meat, but it's okay for them to fly in private jets. That's cool, because they're the ones making the rules to save the planet. Genesis, they have 50 to 99 creditors in a mega bankruptcy filing. Coinbase, which is another company. Remember, Coinbase is, I would say, the only regulated exchange in the world. They even said that if they go bankrupt, the money that you have in Coinbase is actually their money and not your money. So this is what I'm talking about, Bitcoin. Just be careful, right? Don't put all your eggs in one basket. You know, when it comes to futures trading, for example, which I've been in, so I think I'm going on 23 years now in the industry, you know, the high returns as well. If you make the right decision, obviously, if you don't, you could lose a lot of money too. But, you know, you have pretty good leverage. Look into it. I'll probably start doing some videos for you guys as well. Coinbase shares went up over 11% after JP Morgan Chase, which is the largest bank in the United States, stuck to their neutral rating of Coinbase, meaning that they're probably going to get a good benefit of this crypto carnage because a lot of people are going to come over to Coinbase. And federal prosecutors, in the continuation of the a-hole of the year of the generation, Sam Bankman-Fried, an attorney, revealed that he ordered the co-founder to create a secret backdoor to launder money to Alameda. Alameda, remember, was the trading arm of FTX. FTX, being the second largest exchange, was the second largest exchange in the world for cryptos. They seized nearly $700 million in cash from the biggest a-hole of the year, Sam Bankman-Fried, and that's about 55 million primarily of shares from Robinhood. Commodities, Argentina, world's largest exporter of soybean oil and meal, and also a significant exporter of wheat in addition to corn. They're the third largest exporter of corn. They now are having the worst drought in 60 years, and it's starting to put a damper on their production of food. If you guys didn't hear about the floods and the atmospheric river that they were having in California, so smart are the government in California that after having the worst drought, I think that was reported in 1,200 years, they didn't capture any of the rainwater. So now they're going to go from literally just rain everywhere to back to drought. Just the government, just whatever side it's on, they're literally just, they never do anything properly. Government food pyramid, in today's news of why you should never trust the government, are saying now that Lucky Charms, the overprocessed, highly sugar cereal that they feed to our kids, they're saying the government is better than steak. Remember, to save the planet, you and I got to eat crickets, but they can fly on private jets because that doesn't hurt the environment at all. Oil prices are at their highest level since early December on Wednesday after the Chinese demand is recovering. Remember that China is the second largest economy in the world, the first importer of oil, the largest importer of oil in the world. On that news, U.S. crude went up over 2% to 81.64. Brent went up almost 3% to 87.63. And natural gas prices now are at their lowest since June 2002 of 2021. Let me repeat that. Natural gas is the lowest since June 22nd of 2021, and it's down about 16% so far in 2023. At Davos, Saudi Arabia, this is very big news. Saudi Arabia is saying that they're open in settling trade in other currencies, meaning, for example, the euro or the currency from Saudi Arabia called the rial. If you guys don't know kind of the paradigm that we live in 1945 is what was called the petrodollar was created. This is because the United States made an agreement with Saudi Arabia to sell all their oil in gold in dollars. So what happens? In the past, anybody that needed oil had to go buy dollars in order to pay Saudi Arabia and the other major oil producers. It's become a custom now where you just need dollars. And then that created kind of a dollarized economy, right? So for example, if Brazil wanted to buy something from Russia, what they would normally do is they would go out and trade their reais, which is the currency from Brazil, trade them to dollars and then pay Russia in dollars because it was just kind of customary to do everything in dollars. This is a very big piece of news because if they start accepting payment for oil in something other than dollars, what happens is that the demand of the dollar goes down quite a bit. Now, why is this important? Everything works on supply and demand. Remember that the money that we use is called fiat, meaning it's not connected to anything. I don't have a piece of paper here, but this here we go. The only reason why I can't go to the store and pay with this paper is because the government says that I need to use a dollar, right? So it's the only reason why this doesn't have value, but the dollar is literally just like this piece of paper. It's just painted green and it's got numbers on it. So if the oil companies start to accept money in something other than dollars, the demand for the dollar is going to go down, and there's a lot more dollars overseas than inside of the United States. So if all those dollars start coming back home, the inflation that we're seeing right now is going to be nothing compared to what we're going to see in the future because it's simply demand and supply. So if there's less demand for the dollar, that means that the value of the dollar is going to devalue, which means that we're literally going to have a hyperinflation situation. It's only a matter of time now that more and more countries are even swapping direct currency swaps, meaning the example I just gave you guys a moment ago where Brazil had to buy dollars to pay Russia. Now they're just paying Russia directly with the rubles from Russia or the reais from Brazil. And this is continuing to accelerate. So now that literally the foundation of the economy that we've been on since 1945, when the petrodollar agreement was signed with Saudi Arabia, is now starting to change. This can literally have ripples throughout the entire economy because it can fundamentally change the way that we do business. In my opinion, they're doing it on purpose because they want to create such a bad situation where you're going to have to accept eating crickets because there's going to be no more food to eat. And you're going to have to accept government coin because there's just not, the money's going to be worthless. I think it's all planned. World market is facing a coffee shortage, unprecedented for the third consecutive year, as the top grower, Brazil, is having a lower than expected harvest. Global supply is going to be behind 3.8 million bags next season. This season, it's going to be 4.5 million bags of a shortage. Gold and silver. Gold went up 0.29% to 1,927, while silver went down 1.54% to 2,401. In financial and banking news, the U.S. wholesaler prices, meaning the cost to produce a cost or service, went down by 0.5% in December, a lot more than the expectation. And now that we're having a lot more readings, for example, the last 6 months, the cost to produce things have gone down month to month. That's a good sign that inflation is moving lower, which means that we have a less likelihood that the Fed, the central bank in the United States, will not raise interest rates as aggressively, which means that they won't destroy the economy as fast. It's been at the lowest level in the last 9 months, which theoretically is a good thing for you and I, because obviously if the inflation goes down, we've got a little bit extra money to go out and buy stuff. U.S. retail sales fell more than expected last month as well, at negative 1.1% in December. This is an absolutely huge number due to the fact that almost 70% of the economy in the United States is based on consumer spending. So you and I going and spending money out in the store is almost 70% of the economy. The other parts, we have housing and construction, for example, which are about 17 on average percent of the economy. But this is a really big problem because if 70% of the economy is starting to go into negative territory, that's going to really affect the growth of the actual economy. So that is likelihood walking us into a big recession in 2023. Which, in my opinion, what's going to happen is when we start getting to the situation where the economy isn't really doing as well, the numbers which are lagging, the government looks at the numbers from the past and we're all suffering. They're going to start lowering the rates again. And when they start lowering the rates again, that's when inflation is going to start ticking up again, right? Eurozone consumer inflation went down in December as well. The 20 countries in the Eurozone went down by 0.4%. This mainly has to do with the falling energy prices. Remember that natural gas is down big, so that's a good thing for Europe as well. U.S. government hit the $31.4 trillion borrowing limit. The House of Representatives, which is now controlled by the Republicans, don't want to abide by the same rules as the Democrats, which still control the Senate and the presidency. So now the Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen, is saying that she's going to go into doing some cash management, extraordinary cash management, she said. So that'll probably last until June 5th, and hopefully by then we'll have an agreement so the United States won't go bankrupt on its debt. U.S. Treasury inversion is continuing as well. Remember that whenever we have the short-term debt, when the interest rate rises and then we have the long-term debt which actually goes down, that difference in the interest rate is called the inversion, because normally the interest rate on the longer-term debt is different than the shorter term. And if I don't think I've explained that right, but if the shorter term normally is lower because it's lower risk, right? The longer term is normally higher because you're going to leave your money, so it's going to be higher. Well, when the lower starts going up because there's higher risk and people panic, they want their money more liquid, the demand for the shorter term debt goes up, and then the demand for the longer term debt goes down, and that inversion, which is not normal, is an indication of a recession. Iran's troubled currency went to a record low against the US dollar on Saturday. This has to do with Europe not being able to come to an agreement with Iran on the nuclear situation. So They are possibly going to get EU sanctions, which is going to affect their economy as well. In political news, the communist Jacinda Ardern, which is the New Zealand prime minister, which literally was putting people in cages during the pandemic, won't seek re-election and plans to step down no later than February. They're going to have a general election on October 14th. Hopefully you guys don't vote for another communist. Police in Peru that fired tear gas in near Congress on Thursday. The protests are continuing there in Peru. In economic news, China, being the second largest economy in the world, grew at its slowest pace since the 1970s. They now also have the first time that they haven't grown their population. I have the number here. Let me just put that in there. In 6 decades. So there's 850 fewer Chinese people in 2021, first drop since 1961. And this is definitely not a good thing, because if you don't have a growing population, you don't have a growing economy, because people are consuming less and less year round, which possibly opens the question that the Chinese may not overtake the United States as the largest economy in the world. Corporate news, Alphabet, as I mentioned to you guys in the beginning, letting go 6% of their workforce, 12,000 people. Microsoft, 10,000 employees are going to be let go by March 31st. Goldman Sachs, their stock went down 2.4% after they didn't reach their expectations on the revenue from the quarter 4. And LVMH, which is the luxury goods manufacturer, the founder being the richest man in the world now, just hit a record high. For the first time, they're now the most valuable company in Europe. And as long as this guy doesn't get involved in politics like Elon Musk, he'll probably continue being the richest man in the world. Trade news, India is now set to export over 50 million eggs this month, boosted to sales by Malaysia. Everybody's having a problem with the rising eggs due to the fact that the feed that they give the chickens has risen due to the fact that a lot of that stuff comes from things like corn and grain. And the corn and grain, the fertilizers, are generally based on synthetic fertilizers like coal and natural gas. So with those prices going up, especially in the past, and the shortages, right? They need that to grow the food to be able to feed the chickens. In the United States, the main situation is, quote unquote, the avian flu, supposedly. So now India's going to become a major egg exporter, apparently. In the technology transition, transistors on microchips has doubled every year since the 1960s. This may change now due to the fact that the transistors are getting so small that they can't carry that same capacity, since the main material is silicon. But now they're starting to use perfect crystals that are as thin as a single atom in 2D materials, and that can supposedly conduct better electricity and more efficiently than silicon. The FAA is quietly admitting to the fact that the EKG pilots are no longer normal. I wonder what that would be why. The CDC says that stroke concerns over the Pfizer jab will warrant an investigation, and also the senior Swedish doctors are saying that the things that go in your arm from the pandemic should be halted immediately because they're obviously dangerous. So we'll see what results of those investigations. Norwegian shipping company is banning the transport of electric vehicles due to the fire safety concerns. And in the last piece of technology, we have a construction company in Finland, which is going to launch the first industrial scale hydrogen production facility on Friday. This is what they're hoping is going to be part of the plan to be able to reduce their dependency on Russia and also help with the green revolution that they've been planning for a while, even though now they're using a lot more carbon than natural gas and clean energy. Investment news, U.S. existing home sales plunged to a 12-year low in December. Declining mortgage rates has some analysts saying that we might have hit a floor. Sales have dropped almost 18% in 2022, and U.S. mortgage app volume exploded 28% last week compared to this week due to the fact that the mortgage rates actually went down a bit. A year ago, they were 3.64%, and now they're over 7%. If you guys don't know what makes that, what causes that to affect the market, that literally is a difference of about $2,000 on your mortgage. So the same house, even at a lower price, would be $1,000 or $2,000 more. And that's why the housing market isn't doing so well, because we just can't afford it anymore. Farmers dependent on synthetic fertilizers, I mentioned to you guys before, are starting to deliver high crop yields that require to meet global demand. So meaning that the reason why the cost of food is going up so much is because we rely on a lot of these products like coal and natural gas, which have been exploding in price, not recently, but in the past. And the problem is that supposedly these things cause climate. They're just like they say in Davos at the WEF, we got to save the world. So we got to stop making the stuff that heats the world, because obviously that's going to cause the world to go to an end. But we can still fly on our private jets because we need you guys to eat crickets and stop eating meat. There's the summary of all that. So now they're going to try to use the green use of microbes to be able to stop using things like carbon and natural gas to create these synthetic fertilizers, which are 2% of the climate warming emissions. I mentioned to you guys about the population shrinking in China, and also in Madrid, there have been protests against the socialist government. Thousands of people there near the main square accusing the left there in Madrid of violating the constitution, in addition to asking that Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez should resign. And in unusual facts this week, more residents are fleeing the climate and the economies up north and coming to the free state of Florida. A total of over 64,000 people signed up for a Florida driver's license from New York alone in 2022. That's the news for this week, guys. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Don't forget to subscribe. Leave all your questions with the hashtag #AskMarcello. I'll put the little thing up. There it is. And we'll see you next week. Oh, I forgot. Remember, the preppers were right.